안녕하세요 여러분, 감사합니다. Hi everyone, Margarita here, and today I want to share with you an exciting new Korean learning resource for beginners, because I've been studying Korean for so long and I feel like I'm way not a beginner anymore, but that doesn't mean that those of you who have just stumbled upon my channel and have been watching my Korean learning videos, which you can find right here, by the way, if you're curious, should be robbed from being exposed to a variety of different Korean learning resources for different levels, even though now I'm not a beginner. So, with that said, I'm proud to introduce to you Jajang! Korean for all! Woo! Paksu! This textbook right here has been graciously sent to me by Sue herself, the author of this textbook. She's a lovely native Korean speaker who has a passion of helping us foreigners learn Korean, and she has poured all of her passion into this bad boy. Also, look how cute it is! Oh, that little bunny! Oh, look at that cute little bunny! Sorry. I am such a sucker for cute little things. I mean, this textbook would have been so perfect for me when I was a beginner. I mean, where were you? Like 7 years ago. Oh, that was so long ago. Also, if you want to purchase one of these bad boys for yourself, you can use a coupon code from myself to you. Well, you get a little discount because every little helps. But seriously though, I had to flip through this textbook and I want to share some of my thoughts and objective opinions about the layout of the textbook. Do I think it's useful for beginners? For what type of learner do I think this textbook is most suitable for? So without further ado, let's get into it. Ka-cha! First thing that I noticed that I really liked in this book is that it has reoccurring international characters right here. You have a German girl, you have a Russian girl, you have a Chinese guy, a French guy, and you see these characters reappearing all throughout the book and you just kind of get accustomed to them. Another huge plus to this book, for me personally, is the fact that it does not use romanization whatsoever. Not on a single page, not in the beginning, not in the end. Automatically, it just assumes that you will be able to read Korean letters, and also at the beginning, if you are a complete beginner. The first chapter covers the alphabet and tells you all about consonants, vowels, final consonants, and you have a little bit of practice right here. I mean, obviously these 3.5 pages of learning about the alphabet is probably not enough for an absolute beginner who has never encountered Korean alphabet before, so I probably would use some other supplements to help me learn Hangul if I absolutely don't know it. This is a good beginning, and it does follow the same pattern that the entire book has of being very concise and very straightforward with explanations, not going too much in depth about little things. But I do think when you're learning Hangul and when you're learning the alphabet, there is a need to go a little bit further in depth just to kind of help people wrap their brain around reading not only from left to right but also from top to bottom, and all the different variations of pronunciation you can have based on the placement of your consonants and vowels. But again, this book is not meant to teach you Hangul. This book is meant to kind of help you out and be this guide for you as a beginner. So if you're a type of learner that struggles with vocabulary, this book is perfect for you. Every single chapter has this little section with different objects that are related to the topic of this chapter, and you just learn a bunch of vocabulary like earrings, glasses, phone, table, 책상, desk, you know, just basic vocabulary, which just kind of repeats all throughout the book, which is a great way to get vocab stuck in your brain, is repetition. Another thing I really like is that each chapter has a little bit of grammar explanation. It obviously has a dialogue, which is what we're all used to having in textbooks, but then it goes straight into exercises galore. And I think that is essentially the best way of learning when you're a beginner, because the concepts aren't too complicated. You look at a grammar point, you figure it out, and then all you really need to do to get it stuck in your head is practice. So I do appreciate how many exercises each chapter has. And what I also like is that there are chapter tests. So after you've done about 3 chapters, I think, you get like a unit test, which is also really nice. The one thing that I wouldn't really say is a minus to this book, but it's just how it is that it doesn't have answers to any of the exercises or tests that are in the book. I checked the back. I don't think it has any answers in there. I'm not sure if they're anywhere online, so I would probably recommend this as a supplementary textbook that you're using with a teacher or maybe a fellow Korean student, where you can kind of check each other and objectively see if one of you got it right or wrong, or if you have a teacher, they would be able to pretty much check your work. Otherwise, you're kind of operating in the dark. You answer these questions, but you don't really know. Did you get it right? Did you get it wrong? So there's that. Another very, very big plus of this book is its culture and expansions little inserts that I think every chapter has, and it basically just gives you a perspective about a certain aspect of Korean culture. Here we have Korea's pali culture, which all of us hopefully are very familiar with from Korean dramas, and just some of you maybe having been to Korea. And this happens in every chapter. I think there's one about lookism in Korea. I think that is a very interesting subject. The beauty industry in Korea is incredibly developed, and there are different standards there than there are in the English-speaking world. So I think that's a very useful addition to this textbook that doesn't only make this a language learning textbook, but it also gives a much more deeper cultural understanding of Korea as a country. So that's a huge plus. Now, I wouldn't be myself if I just kind of raved about this book and didn't notice any tiny little things that I personally would change or I didn't really appreciate. This book doesn't have a lot of those. I mean, it's very straightforward. It has a particular purpose and it delivers on what it promises. But personally, I found that some English in some sections, obviously I didn't read the entire thing from cover to cover, but there were some parts in it where the English wasn't like exactly correct. Like, yeah, you can kind of use it, but like me being a grammar nerd, I found a few English sentences that didn't make grammatical sense, which it's okay. We're all native English speakers, hopefully, who are choosing to purchase this textbook because it is in English. So English is not the language that we're planning to learn, but just for any student who might be bilingual in English and your English isn't that great, but there aren't a lot of textbooks available in your native language about Korea, and you choose English language textbooks, I personally, if I would create a textbook, would really check my English, and I would really make sure that all of my English is also grammatically correct, just because you never know the kind of person who'd be studying with this book. But yeah, that's just a tiny little thing that I noticed. And also, again, I think that's a personal preference, and I think this is here done intentionally, but in some parts at the beginning of the book, I would maybe go a little bit more in depth into certain grammatical concepts, like when you just talk about how to say, I am a Russian person, you have 이에요, and it doesn't really explain what 이에요 is, where it comes from, that it comes from 이다, a verb to be. You know, I would probably talk a little bit more about that. But then again, when you're just starting out, do you really need to concern yourself with where different expressions and grammatical points come from? I don't know. It's a contested point. It depends on the type of learner that you are. If you're like me and you really like to dig deep into the grammar and the language and get super, super duper linguistically nerdic about it, nerdic. Did I really just come up with a word? Nerdic. Nerdy, I think that's what I meant, about it, then, you know, you might want to consider supplementary materials and looking up online certain different grammatical principles and verbs that might not be featured in this book at the very beginning. It does introduce verbs later down the line, but again, there are some parts that are not entirely explained. For example, direct modifying of verbs and turning them into nouns. I mean, that's a huge concept, and I don't really think it's a beginner concept, but it does appear in the book a little bit. So yeah, this is just me rambling at this point. I also know that this is not the only Korean learning resource that Sue Carrots, which is Sue's brand, has. I know that there are also flashcards and an ebook, and I believe online supplementary video materials, which I will all link in the description down below. So make sure to use my coupon code to get your hands on one of these cute little fellows. Eee, they're so adorable! And if you have any questions about this book, about Korean learning, anything in between Korea related, let me know and I will answer them for you in the comments. Otherwise, I hope all of you are having the most wonderful day and the most wonderful week. We're all staying strong and happy and healthy, and I'll see you all in my upcoming video. Bye! Annyeong!